February 24th, 2021. WP Tavern. Post title: Bluehost misuses WordPress trademark, reigniting controversy over recommended hosts page. The article documents two things simultaneously. First, Bluehost has been using the WordPress trademark in ways that violate the terms under which it can be used. Second, and this is the detail, WordPress leadership acknowledges in the same article that the recommended hosts page drives many millions per year in business for the listed companies. Their position: nobody paid for the placement, to their knowledge. The selection process is not publicly documented. 16 years, many millions per year, an opaque selection process. And the company benefiting from the recommendation was misusing the trademark of the organization providing it. This is the Bluehost story in one news cycle, the most recognized beginner web hosting brand in the world, on the most influential recommendation page in the WordPress ecosystem, owned by the same PE firm that holds Newfold Digital's near-default Fitch C rating, operating under a relationship that officially is not paid but is worth millions and has never been transparently explained. Matt Heaton and Danny Ashworth launched Bluehost in 2003 in Provo, Utah, with an explicit focus on two things: affordable pricing and responsive customer service. A 2009 Deseret News profile describes Heaton building a host that felt like it was run by people who cared about web builders' problems, not just their subscription fees. In 2005, 2 years after founding, WordPress.org added Bluehost to its recommended hosts list. This is the detail that defines every subsequent chapter. The WordPress.org recommended hosts page sits on a website that receives hundreds of millions of visits per year. Every tutorial that sends a beginner to WordPress.org to install, WordPress exposes them to that list. Every first-time site owner who searches for how to host WordPress eventually encounters it. Bluehost's placement on that list, earned under founder ownership, gave the brand a legitimacy signal that would survive everything that followed. EIG acquired Bluehost in 2010. Matt Heaton stepped down as CEO in June 2011, approximately a year after the acquisition. He had built the company. EIG would now run it. The transition from founder-led to portfolio-managed is the inflection point. After Heaton's departure, Bluehost's customer service investment, infrastructure decisions, and product direction were made by a company whose primary obligation was to its investors, not to Bluehost's users. In 2017, 7 years after the acquisition, EIG laid off 440 Bluehost employees in Utah and moved support operations to Tempe, Arizona. VentureBeat covered the layoffs. The 440 number is documented. The responsive service Heaton had built the brand on was reduced and centralized as part of EIG's cost extraction model. The WordPress trademark misuse story matters because of what it reveals about the recommendation relationship, not just because of the compliance violation. WordPress leadership's position in the WP Tavern article: nobody paid for the placement. The selection process is not publicly documented. The community's calculation: a multi-million-dollar annual business relationship running for 16 years at that point, in which the beneficiary was misusing the trademark of the recommender, and the selection process remained opaque. An undocumented multi-million-dollar annual business relationship is structurally indistinguishable from a paid relationship, even if it is not one. The community cannot verify the no-payment claim. The trademark misuse made the relationship look both commercially entangled and poorly governed simultaneously. The community has its own shorthand for the outcome of this structure: the Bluehost Trap. Beginners search for best WordPress hosting. WordPress.org recommends Bluehost. They sign up at an introductory rate. A year later, the renewal arrives at several times the introductory price. They have a WordPress website they cannot easily migrate without technical knowledge they do not yet have. They pay the renewal. The trap is not malicious in the sense of deliberate deception. It is structural. The WordPress.org recommendation directs exactly the users least likely to comparison shop into exactly the pricing model most dependent on them not doing so. The recommendation survived the EIG acquisition in 2010. It survived the 440 layoffs in 2017. The concrete event that most directly undermined the support quality the recommendation had been built on. It survived the trademark misuse in 2021. It survived the formation of Newfold Digital and the Fitch C downgrade in December 2025. It is still active in April 2026. May 2021, EIG merged with Web.com Group to form Newfold Digital. Bluehost and HostGator became Newfold's flagship hosting brands. The current CEO is Sachin Puri, appointed under the Newfold corporate structure and not a founder of the brand he runs. Bluehost in April 2026 is a genuine product with real capabilities. Shared hosting on NVMe SSD with Cloudflare CDN integration, managed WordPress with auto updates, staging, backups, malware scanning, and WonderSuite, an AI-assisted onboarding and site-building tool that is one of the more functional beginner guides in the market. The infrastructure has migrated parts to Oracle Cloud, an agency partner program launched in June 2024. 5 million plus WordPress users across the platform. The performance benchmarks are honest. Reliable uptime around 99.95% in independent tests, sub-second load times for most basic sites, adequate for the majority of beginner use cases. Not the fastest. Hostinger wins most head-to-head performance tests. SiteGround is stronger on support depth. Bluehost operates from a single US data center, which is a meaningful weakness for audiences outside North America. The product has improved in specific dimensions under Newfold. The WordPress community's relationship with the brand has not recovered to what it was under founder ownership. In February 2026, a Reddit thread asks, "Is Bluehost still good for beginners in 2026? The top responses describe the default beginner trap narrative as still active and name Hostinger as the first alternative recommendation. The brand recognition that the WordPress.org recommendation built is now the primary customer acquisition asset of a parent company carrying a near-default credit rating from Fitch. The recommendation has not changed. The company behind the brand, Bluehost, is the correct choice for a beginner building their first WordPress website who wants a guided setup experience, values the WordPress.org endorsement as a trust signal, and is willing to pay a higher renewal price after the first year once they are invested in the platform. The WonderSuite onboarding is functional. The WordPress tooling works. The recommendation is real, even if its independence is contested. For anyone who has done the research beyond the first page of search results, Hostinger is cheaper than Bluehost's renewal price, faster on most performance benchmarks, and does not carry the corporate ownership questions that EIG and Newfold attached to the Bluehost brand over a decade of acquisitions and cost-cutting. SiteGround costs more than Bluehost's introductory price, but less than its renewal price, performs faster in independent tests, and has a support reputation that Bluehost cannot match after 440 of the people who provided that support were laid off in 2017 to reduce EIG's operating costs. The series question applied directly. Who owns Bluehost, and what are their incentives? Clearlake Capital and Cyrus Capital own Newfold Digital. Bluehost is Newfold's flagship customer acquisition brand. Its role in the portfolio is to keep the funnel full. The WordPress.org recommendation and the brand recognition built over 21 years direct a continuous and self-renewing stream of beginners into Newfold subscriptions, which are then monetized through the renewal pricing model that defines every EIG and Newfold brand. The recommendation was earned by a founder-run company in 2005. It is now the primary acquisition mechanism of a near-default PE holding company that laid off the team who earned it. Newfold is the machine. Bluehost is the face of the machine. The recommendation has not changed in 21 years. The company behind the brand is unrecognizable from what it was when the recommendation was first given.